For that arrogance, I shall see you dead.
Yeah. All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick! It's a 12-gauge double-barreled Remington.
Welcome back to the Chaos Store. And I don't know about you, but if I was this guy, I'd be installing Call of Duty. Jokes aside, we need to talk about Halo's state of close quarters combat and shotguns. But why? Well, in my opinion, 343 can make some much needed changes, and it really wouldn't even be that hard. You see, I took this clip while Infinite was relatively new and still working out some of its design choices. I figured they would eventually change Halo's shotguns, or maybe even add another couple weapons to rotate throughout the maps. Sadly though, it's been about 8 months, and we still have 2 weapons that I feel like struggle to stand out in the sandbox. And before you say it, trust me, I understand we have way more important things to worry about, but I feel like nobody else is talking about this. However, before we even get into the nitty gritty, let's just examine shotguns across Infinite and then other iterations of the franchise. The loose definition of a shotgun is a smoothbore gun for firing small shots at close range. Let's zoom out, pun intended, and look at our weapons. The Bulldog is the most consistent option and one of the more popular ones. 3 well-aimed shots and your targets are done for. Its rugged and simple design, in my opinion, overshadow the Heatwave in many situations. And to contrast the Bulldog is the Heatwave. The Forerunner counterpart is sleek, alien, and boasts dual firing modes for different engagement types. It trades a raw punch for more range, ricochet rounds, and if skillfully landed, can take out targets in very little shots. The Heatwave ultimately demands precise aim in certain situations over the Bulldog, and can reward the player if executed. A little bias may have seeped into that, but it's simple enough to understand what these 2 weapons do in Infinite Sandbox. Now, let's take a look at what shotguns have been like in Halo for almost 2 decades. As you can see, these old weapons mop up any poor soul that happened to walk in front of you. And being completely honest, there are few satisfactions that beat the rack of a shotgun. Even if the range isn't any farther than a wet sneeze, the feeling of blowing through grunts or the flood has been damn near perfect for so many years. So why in Infinite do we lack that rewarding piece of gameplay? As of making this video, we have about 2.5 weapons that function as de facto CQC weapons. The Bulldog and the Heatwave are supposed to be your go-to for when somebody invades your safe space. Sadly though, I never seem to really be as satisfied with their mechanics, and sometimes opt in for other options in Halo Infinite. I mean, let's be honest here, before the nerf, the Mangler was the best CQC weapon. And not because of its availability over the other shotguns, I really think it perfectly simulated that shot melee combo from earlier games. Even correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most players preferred the Mangler over the Heatwave in many instances. Being honest, if I was surrounded by 3 Spartans, I can tell you I'd rather have something that's consistent and reliable. And these shotguns just don't do it for me in Halo Infinite. Sure, they have a lot of range and a high fire rate, but I think that's where the problem lies. We're missing the consistency and sheer power of a close quarters combat punch when things get sticky. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy the new shotguns, but they just leave something to be desired. And here's my full disclaimer, I'm no game developer and the Mangler probably was slightly OP, but they didn't have to eliminate its power and not buff another weapon. The problem I have with Infinite Sandbox right now is that there are 2 weapons that fundamentally play 2 of the same roles. And I understand the purpose of these weapons. They're made to ideally engage targets in medium range fights. But I really think they take away something that most Halo players have been familiar with for far too long. Now, I do see Halo has shifted more towards a balanced sandbox. Ever since the introduction of the Halo 2 battle rifle, Bungie and 343 have tried to make other weapons up to par and more viable. The needle rifle and carbine weren't purely cheap clones, Their unique firing modes and mechanics set them apart from their counterparts and enhance the gameplay. If I can do anything, I can give 343 one thing. They managed to even make the pistol seem competitive, or even OP at times. Whether you like that idea is for another video, but I do think the ball is dropped when infinite shotguns are involved. Personally, I think they sit in this really weird middle ground. And as because of this, I feel like they almost function as a slightly more effective assault rifle in many cases. And I don't think it's the best fit. I mean, even taking some of my anecdotal evidence and really take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes I stick to my AR in close fights just because the shotguns don't mop up poor idiots like they used to. And that's fine, you know, not every weapon has to be a one-hit deleting option, I understand that. I mean, I truly do believe they belong in the sandbox and enhance the gameplay. However, both weapons function far too similarly to each other, and with the Mangler receiving a pretty hefty nerf, that really only leaves us with a few options in order to improve the close quarters sandbox. The first option really kinda sucks. Rebuff the Bulldog and basically make it to a reskinned Halo shotgun and just call it a day. Easy peasy, smooth brain solution. Or we could do the more wrinkled option and add a shotgun from a previous title like Halo 5 or even 3. Honestly, at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter to me personally. Any of them are really viable options that aren't complete replacements for the current weapons. I mean, hell, looking back at the Reach shotgun, gameplay wise and stylistically, it seems like a perfect fit for a modern Halo. It was damn near perfect art design back in the day, and the community probably wouldn't be divided as much on the addition. And wait, hold on, pause. Editor's note. How are we going to play Infection with these current shotguns? I mean, just even like quickly thinking about it, imagine 7 infected rushing you and just thinking about being stuck with the Bulldog or the Heat Wave. The shotguns and Infection have been almost synonymous with each other since they were paired. And if you really want to think about it, there should be nothing better to use in a zombie apocalypse. So why would it change 600 years in the future? And look, we're going to try and will it into existence, but when 343 adds the Flood, it'll be a perfect segue to add Infection, a new shotgun, and the Flood. It's all speculation really, but I mean, come on, a man really can dream. But before I end this video, I don't want to try and make it come off as me hating on these weapons. They don't suck by any means, and even though I'd rather have an AR than a Heat Wave any day, they do serve their purpose. In all honesty, for what it's worth, I enjoy the idea of the Bulldog, even since it was teased during the beginning of Halo Infinite. It's just when you add something that replaces such an iconic feeling to the Halo franchise, that's where the problem arises. But anyways, at the end of the day, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Am I missing something about these weapons? Perhaps there is another solution. Or maybe I nailed it right on the head. Or maybe even adding the old shotguns back could cause World War III. But regardless of what you'll say, I'll listen. If anything, it can start a really interesting dialogue. And I really did enjoy reading everything about my last video, as it really does make my day. Like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you for more content. Technique out.